Hello and welcome back to Stationeers. I'm Mick, and today we're in my test wheel on Lulan, and we're going to be going right back to the start and having a look at our furnace yet again. There have been some changes that have come along, so the furnaces are no longer perfectly insulated. Well, when they're in a frame, they never were when they're standing alone. We've now got perfect combustion. So time has come to actually come back and have another look at it. So I have my my advanced furnace. I have an insulated tank. So I think my very second video I ever put out, I had the furnace design with a furnace and a tank together. And let's have a revisit of that and see what we can do. The problem with that one was that it couldn't really cool down properly. So now I think we can manage that. So there's a few different things there. So I brought in my lovely selection of fuel from the fuel processor over there. So let's not worry about how we get them there, but we have our nitrous, our oxygen, and our hydrogen. Advanced furnace and an insulated tank, and I shall set up some gas displays and a hash display. I shall hook up some gas temperature and pressure so we can get in our tank as well. And we'll be able to have a bit of a closer look at what's going on. Right, so again, I'm being creative, so that makes life a little bit easier here. I'm looking for stuff, and I've managed to free range some ores over here, so we've got plenty to work with. Right, so now a very simple way to hook up an advanced furnace is to just hook up the input and output together and keep your hot gas in a tank by itself, because the furnace is not perfectly insulated, but the tank is. So if you store your hot gas in there, it'll stay hot. So I shall need some pipes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hook them both together. Down there, of course, the water does nothing. Boom, that's simple, hooked up. Now we want a source of fuel coming into it. Now you can hook the fuel up to the input pipe and put a valve system on there, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to hook it straight up to the tank. So what I shall do there is we shall come out to, from here, just hook this one straight up, boop, to there. So now the tank is hooked to these pipes, which is hooked straight to the fuel pump, which I had better hook up. Let's go with what the hell, let's go with nitrous. And of course, everybody knows that won't work because it's the wrong color. So we better paint that. And you're a fuel mixer, so you've got to be orange. There we go. All safe. Now, so we've got hydrogen and nitrous, so we should put it to a 50-50 mix, which we already have. I have hopefully got nitrous in there, or I'm going to look pretty silly. Sillier. I have hydrogen, I have nitrous, minus 13, minus 30. Right, same temperature, we're good. We're good to start mixing. Right, so now, well, let's set up these things too, shall we? I've got no power. Turn that up. Hey! Might actually know what I'm doing after all. Turn them down. And you. Right, so you shall be the temperature of the tank. You should be the pressure of the tank. You shall be the temperature of the furnace. You should be the contents of the furnace. That's a hash reader. That's a gas one as well. You should be the pressure. Of course, there's nothing there at the moment because there's nothing in it. Right. So, once again, nothing at all. Now I can mix some gas into there. You see the gas in the tank. Where are you? Is in there. I can suck that into here just by turning up my input. That one there. So gas comes into here, and I can of course ignite it. Boom, and we're away. Not a problem. Now if I blow that hot gas out, we shall see. Stop sucking it in, we're good. we shall see that the fuel that's in here should then ignite in the tank. So if I output that, this suddenly gets hot. There we go, all the nitrous is now burning and the volatiles. There we go, 10 mole. Right, so we now have a very hot tank. And, oh, that's the input, the output. So now this one will cool down. If we switch it off and leave it there, the temperature in there will go down because it is losing heat to the atmosphere. But what is in the tank, once it stops burning, still going. What's in the tank will keep its heat perfectly. So now all I need to do when I want to smelt something, I'm going to make some iron. I can chuck you in there. That's not going to melt because it's too cold. I just need to get some input gas in there, and away we go. Whoop. Iron. Easy. So I can switch the input off. I can pump that gas back out again if it's worth keeping. And it goes back into the tank. Whenever the tank gets too cold, I can just hit the fuel button again and the tank will start heating up. It's got cold fuel. It'll take a moment to heat up, but it will heat up. And the pressure will go up. So that is a very simple way of doing it. So you can just hook it, once again, the fuel is just hooked up directly to the tank. Both outputs of this one are hooked up to here. The tank will keep hot gas forever. And all you got to do is pump it into the furnace when you need it, then pump it all out again when you don't need it. And it'll stay hot. So that's a very simple advanced furnace setup. In my original furnace setup we had where we could just sort of pump fuel in there. Because the fuel only combusted once it reached 5%, it was kind of hit and miss. But now we have a perfect combustion, albeit a bit slow, but it does burn completely down all of the fuel that's in there. So in theory, I should be able to figure out what gas is in here. I'll know the thermal capacity of that. I know what temperature I want to get to. I should be able to calculate exactly how much fuel I have to add to get to that right temperature. Well, that's the plan at least anyway. So we're going to have a way of accurately calculating what's in that there. So I shall need to calculate the thermal capacity of what's in there, and maybe the thermal capacity of something else, and see if I can accurately mix them to get the right temperature I'm looking for. So that'll be the task. So we shall see how we go. So I shall need, probably best if I do this in the tank, because the tank is perfectly insulated, so I can figure out my calculations without having to mess around with the cooling of the tank, cooling of gases in the furnace. So I can have a static situation to work with. So I'll put in some sensors on that. So I'll need a pipe analyzer. I might get rid of the tank and I'll just replace that with a heap of pipes, because there will be an interplay between the pipe and the tank. So the tank has a volume of about 60 pipes. So if I replace that with 60 pipes, then I'm just dealing with a 1 atmospheric object rather than trying to deal with 2. Just for the sake of experiments, we shall do that. Right, so let's do that. We've got the tank swapped out, replaced with the equal volume of pipes. Don't have a connector anymore, so I had to hook up a cable analyzer. Once again, we've still got our temperature and pressure of what's in that network there. So I shall need another source. If I perhaps just extract one of those. So I have, okay, so all the oxygen and a tiny little bit of the nitrous left. So the hydrogen is all gone. The oxygen, well, I never put oxygen in there, I put in nitrous. So that is all completely burned. So now if I maybe take out the CO2 and cool it down, let's see if we can figure out what temperature it'll be when we mix them back together again. Well, that'll be the trick, because there'll be different mixes of gas, So what they actually end up with will be something different. So I may as well just extract the carbon dioxide. I could put in a filter and extract that. I'll put a monitor on that and probably some radiators so I can change the temperature of it. Right, so we are at 5,000 Kelvin. Okay, yeah, that's pretty warm. Nitrous, gotta love it. So I need a filter so I can suck out the CO2. Right. Right, there we go. Now I have a filter set up that is just going to filter out the CO2 into this line here. So if we switch him on, where's my tablet? There it is. So I should have CO2 in here at 5,000 degrees, and the CO2 is disappearing from there. Right, excellent. So that separates them out. Now if I cool this CO2, and then try and mix it back in again, what temperature will it go to? That's the trick, so I'll need some radiators. Now I want the right ones. They are not liquid. That one. Oop. If I put on a heap of them. Okay, yep, that's radiating really good. What if I fly away? It's not going to let me. Nope. Okay, that'll probably do for radiators then. Okay, so that is radiating. It should be cooling down, which it is doing quite nicely. So now I shall need a computer, and if I analyse the gas composition of there and the gas composition of this, and figure out the heat capacities of both of those gas mixes, we should maybe do something. Right, let's get some computer up and start having a look at it. Okay, so now the trick here is we find that each of the gases will have a specific heat, and they're all different. So the specific heat is how much temperature will rise when you apply a certain amount of heat to it. And they're all different. So a different mix of gases will heat up differently with the amount of heat you have. So you have to find out what the specific heat is for the gas mixture, not just the individual ones, if you want to accurately mix them. So we're going to need the specific heat of each of the gases there. We shall need to know the ratios of each of the gases there. And we should be able to figure out what the specific heat of the gas is and how much it will rise with added energy. And if we can find out the mixes of both gases and the energy of both gases, we should be able to mix them together and figure out what the final temperature will be exactly. On previous ones, I've just been using approximates, and they've just had to adjust, scripts just had to adjust itself as it mixes them. This time we'll go for an exact one where you shall make a super precise furnace. So we're going to have to look in the analyzer, this one over here. I can read out what percentage of each gas is, and I should be able to calculate the specific heat of that gas. Right, so I shall need the analyzers. Yes, we'll call it a tank. It's not really a tank anymore, but we'll call it a tank. And oh yes, the CO2 tank D1 and my display to D2. I shall need to know the specific energy of each of those ones. So okay, so it's going to be a bit of a long-winded one, but we'll see how we go. So from there, if we start with the tank, I shall load from the tank the ratio of carbon dioxide. Let's try loading it into something. Load it into R0, and I shall load into R1 from the tank. That's not what I want to do at all. So now I shall multiply that ratio, carbon dioxide. So R0 will be R0 multiplied by the specific heat of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, come on, which is 28.2. 28.2. And that will give me the specific heat of that one there. So I just need to do that again with each of the gases and add them all together. So I might skip that in the edit. Right, so we have now added them all in, looked up all their specific heats. Now, of course, we've got to add them together, so we've got to keep a running total here. So I've defined a variable, a register as specific heat, and we sort of set that to start, and then just add. Might be helpful if I do that one properly. If we add that on to each of them as we go. You add on to you. That wouldn't have worked. Right, so by the time we get to the end, we should have a total. Anything that's not here will just be a 0, so it won't add anything to it, of course. We check all of the gases and water. We multiply them each by their specific heats, because you see each of them is a little bit different, except for water. That is a massive way of storing heat if you want to do that. That's why it's so hard to cool down, because it's almost 3 times what everything else is. So we have that. That should give us that. So if we save to this display the setting specific heat and jump to the start. Confirm. If I export that, not to the filtration. Did I really hook up the data on that? I don't think I did. IC housing, export to you. Yep, there we go. Now I shall need to hook up the tank, which was the, what do I call it? The tank analyzer. I did call it tank, and the CO2 one will be the CO2 analyzer, and the display will be the display. There we go. I'll try again, reset you. So I get 24.14, which is round about what we expected. It is mostly pollutant, CO2 and nitrogen. Carbon dioxide's high. That sort of sounds about right. Right, so if we test that, if I remove some more of the CO2, now the CO2 was the high one, 28.2, so if I remove the high one, that should go down. And it is. Right. So that looks like it's working. So now if I did the same thing, but did it with that one there, it should give us just CO2, because there's only CO2 in there. So it should give us the specific heat of the CO2, which is 28.2. That's a lot of lines of code. Can I turn that into a function? Right, so if I just re-alias the device. So if I set tank as D1 and ran that, and set it as D2, ran it again, it should read the other one. So I don't want to have to repeat all those lines of code time and time again, because I don't have that many lines of code. So if I turn that into a function, call it, and it should be able to set specific heat for us. Right, I'll do that. So start, we should call ye calc It's calc heat. It's not calc cheat. This is not cheating. This is maths. Nothing beats maths. So we shall need to set, before we call it, I shall need to alias tank to D1. We'll call it to D0, just to test that he's given us the same values. So then if I say jump and link to calc heat, it will have to do calc heat, and it'll have to jump back to the RA. I can get rid of you. And put you back up there. And then I should just put you back to the start from there. Right. So we set to D0, which is the tank. Call that and display the value it returns, which is the specific heat. Right. Now this can be a bit dodgy, so make sure to select that again, export that again. We're working. That was the same value. Switch that on. It's going down again. Right. So now if I re-alias that to D1, I should get the 28, whatever it was. Export. We get the 28.2, so that is just the CO2, so that is working, right. So that's all we got to do. So we know the specific heats of the two gas mixes. Right, so now if I multiply that by the temperature, it should give me the energy of the mix. Now I've got to multiply that by the total moles, it'll give me the heat capacity of the tank. And then I need to then multiply by the temperature to get the total energy. Oh, crap. Right, so I should be able to do that. So I'll also need to know the total moles. So instead of calculating the specific heat, we shall calculate the heat capacity. Is that what I want to know? I want to know the total energy. So I shall then just load into R0 from the tank total moles and multiply heat by R0, which is the total moles. Confirm, export. Right, that's the heat capacity. Yeah, sure, why not? So if I change that back to D0, which was the big pipe, export, yeah, there's a crap ton of power in there because there's a lot more gas in there. Now if I pull gas out of that, of course, that number should go down. Which it is. If you look on the little tooltip there, you can see it going down. It's such a big number it can't fit on there. I might actually put a bigger display on there. That might be the way to do it. Right, so bigger display. Right, now I was switching that on and watching the number go down. Right, so as we remove gas, the heat capacity of there disappears as it should do. Right. Excellent. So now if I get the temperature and multiply it by the temperature, it'll give me the total energy. So load into R0 from the tank temperature. And if I multiply that, multiply tank by, whoops, R0, that should give me the energy. Export, which should be a very big number. Why don't you like that? 37? Why not? Is that number too big for you? Oh, it's a tank, idiot. That will work better. Right, and that is a very big number. Now, if I switch it back to the carbon dioxide by changing that to D1, we should see that, and it is cooling down, so the energy is going down. Right. So that's good. That's doing what it's meant to be doing. So that's 300 degrees. So if I pull them off, yep. Whoop. Now, that is no longer cooling down, it has stopped. Right. So now I know the total heat capacity, the total temperature, the total energy. I should be able to mix them together, which means the heat capacity of that and that added together, divided by the energy of that and that added together, should give me the final temperature of that when they mix together. Okay. Right, so I shall need to get... Oh, I can't do that, can I? Because I've already ruined my value. So I'll need the heat capacity, then I'll need the temperature. Right. Okay, so I can't do that here. I'll need another variable, won't I? Specific heat. Right. Let's not do that. So let's go back into it. So I shall need a specific heat. I don't really need a specific heat. Heat capacity. Heat capacity 11 and alias the total energy to R12. So we shall say down here, so we get the total moles, we shall say the, we call it the heat capacity is a specific heat times the total moles. That's right. So, so the total energy is the heat capacity times the temperature. Right, so we'll come out of that now. The function will finish and we'll have the specific heat, the heat capacity, and the total energy of the gas. So what do I do with that now? Right, that's a good question. So we load it from D0. I shall calculate the heat. I want to keep those values. So I shall move into, let's grab some temporary ones. R1, the heat capacity, and I shall move into R2, the total energy. And then if I call the other one, D1, calculate it again, and then add those values. So if I, yeah, let's just copy them. Copy and paste. So we've got our first heat capacity and total energy. We call it for the other one. So now we're going to have to add. Whoops. Add. So R1 is R1 plus the new heat capacity. R2 is R2 plus the next total. Try again. R2 plus the next total energy. Right, so that should now, R1 should be the heat capacity of both combined, and R2 should be the total energy of both combined. So now if I divide the total energy by the heat capacity, I should get the final temperature. Well, find out, I guess, won't we? So we have, let's just use again, R0. Oop, we shall need to divide the total energy. So R0 equals the total energy, which is R2, divided by the heat capacity, which is R1. And if we then put that onto the setting, the display, export, we should get a final temperature of 4,879.199 degrees. Could be. Got a lot of gas in there. Got a lot of pressure in there. It's 5,000 degrees. Not a lot of gas. Well, we find out, I guess. So what are we looking for? Looking for 4,879 degrees. So I've got a volume pump and a back pressure pump to make it a bit faster. 4,879. It's not changing as I mix, so it's happy with its results there. So we get 4,879 degrees. Well, that's close enough for me. Wow, that's that worked. Why is my screen gone blank? Don't I deserve a 0? I was probably going to div by 0 now, hasn't it? Yep. Okay. Well, well, shit, that worked. Right. So, what the hell? Why are they the same temperature? Right. Do the gases not mix? All right. So if I cool you down again, now it was a lot cold when I put it in there. It was like 300 degrees, but it's coming out at a different temperature to what the rest of the gas is. Does it not mix the gases? Because when this one came out warmer, because there's still some CO2 in there, it looks like it's just added the energy of the two CO2 mixes. When I extract the CO2 mix, it doesn't have the combined energy of all the other gases. Right, this is... oh, okay. So if I had a tank of cold CO2 and a tank of hot nitrogen, could I mix them together to get the right temperature to smelt my ingots, and then just pump them separate again, and they'll still be hot and still be cold? That might be a bit weird. I guess that's worth a test. Right, so I shall separate these out completely, and we'll have another test. You can see that now the CO2 is cooling down. Because it's losing energy, their predicted temperature is dropping when they mix. Right. Well, this is interesting. This is not what I set out to do, but this is a little interesting segue. What can we do with this? Awesome. Right, so let's wait for these gases to separate. If I get all the CO2 out of there, cool it down, and mix it and extract it all completely again, will it still be at its cooled temperature, or will it absorb any temperature from the rest of it? That's actually going up in temperature as I remove the CO2. Okay. Right, this is weird. This is weird. Right, let's wait for them to extract and we'll have another look. Rightio. Right, we have separated out all of the CO2. So if I grab, get rid of the radiators again. Right. Now, it says 1845. When it combines, we have 8 megapascals. Holy crap, we've got 3,000. Right, we've got a lot in there. It is 577 Kelvin versus this stuff, which is not much there. Oh, it's a bigger pipe network though. This is 5,700 Kelvin. We should get 1845. So we pump them together. Now remember that one is at 577. So if we put you together, that number's holding steady. The temperature is dropping down, and we are going for 1845. And it's looking good. And 1845. Nice. Right. So now, if I extract this gas again, does it come back at 577? I put in an extra one. I got bored. 577 degrees. Whoops. So now that is getting hotter as it gets extracted. This one is still cool. Right, so the temperature did not actually mix with the other gases in there. Wow, that's crazy. Okay. So at what point do they mix? If I pump it into the furnace and back out again, will that mix them? Otherwise, this would be a great way of building a furnace. So yeah, so that's going back up in temperature, and this one is staying cool. Wow, okay. Right, so if I switch them off, I shall mix them back together again. If I pump them through the furnace, will it still extract at 577 degrees? If it does, what do I actually have to do to get it to mix the gases? Right. Nice, so I shall get rid of all that. And let's see how we go. So I have a feeling when it has to calculate a new gas mix from new things being introduced into it, or it transfers into another atmospheric device, it may recalculate them. But we'll find out. That's what experiments are for. So that's all empty. So now if I shuffle that through the furnace, right, so that is just running straight through there. Give it a chance to blow a heap of it through. Oh, it's actually losing some heat now because of that. Okay, doesn't really matter. We just want to know, does this actually make the CO2 heat up? Yes, it will lose some total energy, but the CO2 should still heat up, in theory. We found a rather nasty exploit if it doesn't. If 577. Do we still get it? No. Okay, so that doesn't work. That was fortunate. Oh. Right, so if you if you pump them through into another atmospheric device, they do get recalculated. They do get their energy redistributed by the looks of it. So that's fortunate. Wow. So you can't use that little exploit for making a well, no, you can't. You've still got to get it into the furnace. You can't then extract the gases afterwards. So that's nothing to worry about. But that is interesting. I have noticed that before, is when you mix all the gases from your base and you run it through an atmospheric processing unit, that they all come out at different temperatures. I guess that's why. But anyway, so now we can do that. I know exactly how much it is. Now I should be able to figure out exactly how much fuel to add, because we know the combustion of the fuel. So if I have where I search, water's not going to burn, nitrous oxide. Okay, that's not going to, that doesn't tell me much. It was a hydrogen one. Right, so volatiles. Right, so we have this one. So we know that 2 volatiles, 1 oxygen will give us 3 pollutant and 2 carbon dioxide, plus heat. So I've just got to figure out what the heat number is. I'm sure all the code divers already know that. I will need to find out what energy these ones are delivered with, which is probably that energy there, I imagine. And I will need to know if it takes into account the temperature at which this is supplied at, or whether they just get deleted with all their energy. And all the physicists cry a little bit when you say that. Or is that retained over to here as well? So if you have hot fuel, does that make hotter gases at the end, or does it always come out the same? That was something I have to investigate. I've probably run out of time for today, so I've already done enough maths and enough science here, so I shall need to figure out that equation, figure out what the nitrous one is, and how much energy is produced. And we should be able to measure exactly, because we know the exact mix, the exact specific heat, we'll know exactly how much energy is needed to raise that to a certain temperature. So I should be able to run that calculation and get an answer and add exactly the right amount of fuel. See, what I want to do then is have a tank of cold gas, which I can blow in a certain amount, know exactly how much to put in, and then hook the fuel mixer up separately to the input, and have that blow in a measured amount of gas, just the right amount to get it to the right temperature and pressure. That's the plan anyway. But as I say, I'll have to figure out what the energy equations are. We'll get them, but not today. So, till next time. Stuff on the floor. Who left that? So, till next time, happy building. See ya. Sure, why not? Okay. Right, super light alloys they are. Right. Ever get the feeling that the air currents might be a little bit too strong in this game? Okay. They're migrating.